When you rototill, you shred those networks. You collapse the air channels that earthworms spend all year building. You kill beneficial organisms that were breaking down organic matter and making nutrients available to your plants. And here's the part that really got me. Every time you till, you're bringing thousands of dormant weed seeds up to the surface where sunlight and air trigger them to germinate. So that clean-looking tilled bed, it's actually a weed factory waiting to explode. Here's the thinking behind why many Amish farmers, particularly in the older order communities around Lancaster County and Holmes County, avoid rototilling. It comes down to a principle that runs through almost everything they do. Stewardship, the idea that you don't own the land, you're caring for it so it can take care of the next generation. That might sound philosophical, but it leads to a very practical conclusion. If the soil is alive, and it is, then tearing it apart every spring isn't preparation, it's destruction. And here's where the science backs them up completely. Your soil is not just dirt, it's a living system. There are fungi, bacteria, earthworms, and networks of mycorrhizal threads connecting plant roots underground. The first pattern is tilling to deal with weeds. Most of us were taught that tilling chops up weeds and gives you a clean slate, and it does for about 2 weeks. But what you're actually doing is churning up thousands of weed seeds that were sitting dormant 4 to 6 inches down, bringing them right into the germination zone. The Amish approach buries weeds under deep mulch instead of stirring them up. You're smothering the problem rather than recycling it. The second pattern is tilling to loosen compacted soil. This works in the moment, but tilled soil actually recompacts faster than undisturbed soil because you've destroyed the biological glue, those fungal networks and earthworm channels that held the structure together naturally. With the broad fork method, you're loosening without destroying, and the biological structure rebuilds stronger each season instead of collapsing every time it rains. The third pattern is tilling and amendments. We've all done it. Spread compost, fire up the tiller, mix it all together. It feels thorough, but you're also diluting that compost throughout a depth that plant feeder roots may not even reach, and you're shredding the fungi that would have transported those nutrients directly to your plants. Top dressing lets gravity, water, and biology deliver those nutrients exactly where they're needed, the same way nature has been doing it since long before we invented rototillers. Cover cropping is where the Amish approach really comes together, because this is the step that ties everything else into a self-sustaining system, and it's probably the one thing most backyard gardeners skip entirely, which is a shame because it might be the most powerful tool in this whole method. Here's the idea. Instead of leaving your garden beds bare after you harvest in late summer or fall, you plant a living cover crop that protects and feeds the soil all through the off-season. In many Amish communities, this isn't optional, it's just what you do. Bare soil is exposed soil, and exposed soil loses moisture, erodes in heavy rain, and invites weeds to fill the vacuum. The cover crops you choose depend on what you need your soil to do. If your soil is low on nitrogen, plant crimson clover or hairy vetch. These are legumes, and their roots host bacteria that pull nitrogen from the air and convert it into a form your plants can use. Now here's something I picked up that most gardening books don't cover, and it's perfect if you want to convert a new patch of ground, maybe a section of lawn or a weedy area, into a productive garden bed without ever tilling it. It's called sheet mulching, and some people know it as the lasagna method. Amish families use a version of this when they're expanding garden space, and it's remarkably effective. Here's exactly how to do it. Start by mowing or cutting whatever is growing in the area as short as you can. Don't remove it, just knock it down flat. Next, lay down a single layer of plain corrugated cardboard over the entire area, overlapping the edges by at least 4 to 6 inches so no light can sneak through the gaps. Wet the cardboard thoroughly with a hose, then start layering on top. Put down 2 to 3 inches of finished compost, followed by 4 to 6 inches of straw, shredded leaves, or aged wood chips. Water the whole thing again so it's damp all the way through. Now walk away. The first thing most Amish gardeners rely on is deep mulching. And I don't mean tossing a thin handful of straw around your tomato plants. I mean a serious, intentional layer of organic material that does the job a rototiller pretends to do, only better and without the damage. Here's exactly how to do it. In early spring, once your soil has warmed up enough that it's not cold and soggy to the touch, you want to lay down a layer of organic mulch 4 to 6 inches deep across your garden beds. Straw is the most common choice in Amish communities, but you can also use shredded leaves, aged wood chips, or a mix. The key is that it needs to be thick enough to block sunlight from reaching the soil surface. That's what suppresses the weeds. Now, here's why this works on a biological level. That thick mulch layer does three things at once. First, it smothers weed seeds that are sitting on the surface by cutting off their light. Second, it holds moisture in the soil so you water less. Compost top dressing adds nutrients that biology carries downward, and cover crops protect the soil in the off-season while building fertility and structure from the root zone up. Each method supports the others. That's not an accident. That's what happens when a community has been refining the same approach on the same land for generations. Now let me share some patterns I've noticed in conventional gardening and how this Amish-inspired approach handles things differently. I did most of these myself for years, so there's no what about compaction? If you're not tilling, how do you keep the soil from turning into a brick? This is where the broad fork comes in, and it's one of the most underappreciated tools in gardening. A broad fork is a simple two-handled tool with long steel tines, usually about 12 to 14 inches long, spaced a few inches apart across a bar that's roughly 18 to 20 inches wide. You step on the crossbar to drive the tines into the soil, then rock the handles back towards you. That's it. No engine, no fuel, no noise, just you and leverage. Here's what makes this different from tilling. When you use a broad fork, you're lifting and loosening the soil without flipping it over. The layers stay in place. The top layer of soil, which is where most of the biological activity happens, stays on top. The deeper layers, which have their own distinct communities of organisms, stay where they belong. That's the hardest part for most of us, but it's the most important. Over the next 3 to 4 months, the cardboard smothers the existing grass and weeds underneath. The earthworms move in and start breaking down the cardboard and pulling organic matter into the soil below. The compost and mulch layers begin decomposing, creating a rich planting medium on top of soil that's being naturally improved underneath. If you set this up in fall, by the following spring you can plant directly into it. Push the mulch aside, cut a small hole in whatever remains of the cardboard, and tuck your transplant right in. The roots will grow down through the softened, worm-worked soil below. I set up 2 new beds this way about 3 years ago, and they're now some of the most productive soil in my entire garden.